Okay, so this episode, I'm gonna talk about that the Lizzo thing that happened on Twitter, and for the most part, I understand, especially with the word. I say this word with no disrespect to anybody at all, because this word has multiple meanings, and kind of my opinion on Lizzo, because I don't really Lizzo, for what I've known from the music I've seen her create, the music I've seen her list music, the words she said in music, she tries to uplift everybody. So that's why I get the that it was changed, right? I totally understand that, and it. I think it varies, right? Because the word, right? The word, I mean no offense when I say this word spaz, but the word itself comes from multiple different meanings, and I don't think genuinely people know every meaning of every word that they've ever said, right? But I also understand that people on the hip hop side have been saying it for years, right? Jay said it, Cool J has said it, Pac said it, Biggie said, like, people have been saying that word for years. So there's a lot of people in hip hop that believe, that word's been coined or a word for slang. And technically, it could be like it can be a slur, but it also can be a slang term to describe the emotion that a lot of people in hip hop generated for. But my thing with hip hop, and this is just one example of it, right? Like, the word itself, spaz, is short, right? Shorthand for what the actual word is, because the actual word is spastic, which talks about the muscles spasming from an action, right? And now, hip hop, that's the medical term. Medical term has to do with muscle spasms and stuff like this, right? And different diseases that causes your muscles to spasm. And I get that totally. The medical side, I totally get it, right? But then the Greeks used it for the word considered. The Greeks considered a word to describe the word pulling, like the pulling of like a muscle or the pulling of something, right? And I think this is my issue with hip hop without me going too deep into the issue. Like, I have no issues with hip hop, rock, R&B, soul, country. I have no problem with any genre of music, right? I have no problem with any at all. But I do think there are certain words or certain terms used in certain language and used in certain genres that people consider, okay, they've been saying this word for years, right? And it's true, they have been saying it for years, because the way rappers use the word spaz and the way they use it without trying to sound offensive, without genuinely, because I don't think a lot of people look into words if they're Greek, if they're Latin, if they're Italian, or like what the genre is, or if they're hieroglyphic, right? Like, people don't really look back to what the origins of a word is, right? And I think, there are different people that will say that. I think the Greeks will say that it's pulling, right? Like, it's the pulling of an action or emotion or pulling, right? And then we also do know the medical terminology in the 1860s was about pulling a muscle. But the word is spelled longer, but the slur is spelled the same exact way as the term used in hip hop. Term used in hip hop is really just like if someone's going to fight, or if somebody. It's a weird thing. I get it. It's definitely a weird thing to talk about, because people are like, well, I've been hearing his words in songs for years, and I've never understood why. Right? Like, they've been saying the word for years. Like, they're like, normally they'll call somebody, either you're calling somebody stupid when you're calling them that, or you want to fight. And there are there are songs that, and I know people will say, well, it's just because she has fame, right? And to some degree, I will say, when a spotlight is put on you, you have to be careful on the words you're using, right? And I think she said her apology, and I'm not trying to critique her apology or whatever, but I think we have to look at the words, because I've heard people say that, the current generation of music is soft, or they're too sensitive, right? And I think the thing is, it's not that they're too sensitive. I think that they look into music more, right? I think we have to understand that. I think we have to understand that in music generally, R&B, soul, pop, whatever we listen to, it's they look into words more. Where the 80s, the 90s, hip hop wasn't. You said any word, it rhymed. You had a great flow. In some instances, you could say whatever you want to. But I'm talking about the laws, about those cases for rappers that are having cases now. But at a time, people didn't care what the word meant. It was less technology, and there was less oversight. I would understand there was less oversight of rap. And in recent years, 2010s and up, there have been people holding people accountable of words that they use. And I think that's what happened. That's what happens. I think that's really what happens when you have artists that have heard these words growing up. So they're like, these words were originate, or they've been in rap for so long, no one's ever said anything about it. And I think that's what happened. It was like a shorthand for her, and I don't think she realized what it meant to a lot of people, because a lot of people didn't understand it, and a lot of people understood it. And I think that's just the thing. I think we have a generation that's more looking at everything as a whole, not necessarily one thing individually. And I think with that oversight comes, stuff like words. That's the best way I can describe cancel culture. Is an oversight. It's just oversight of music, where oversight overall over everything, but oversight in the music. So we want to make sure that everyone is correct in what they're saying, and they don't mean any bad will. And for me, I can't think that Lizzo had any bad will towards anybody when she said it. I think, and there are people, when they record music or they sit down with a bunch of groups, they're like, what rhymes and what gives like momentum? What gives that push to it? And some lyrics do, and I think that lyric might have, but I can't really. She changed it. I want to make that officially clear. She did change it. But there are certain words that a lot of people don't look back into the history of what they mean. And so we end up in situations where cancel culture is a thing. Now, if you ask me if cancel culture is something I think we should do, no, but there's some accountability, to certain things. And I think this is just wrong place, bad time. Like, I think, and I don't think that she did with any bad intent. I don't think she did. I think it was just in the moment spirit thing. When people do ad libs and stuff like that, they add crazy ad libs. So that's it. So I don't hold rap. I don't hold hip hop, R&B, pop. So I don't really hold anybody at fault. I just think the way that sounds like terrible to say it that way, but the more we get into technology, the more people we're going to hold accountable, because we have more access to the words, and we can just search them up. We can just search them up in the moment, and we don't have to necessarily do it. But that does hold some rappers accountable for what they say. That's what we're looking at now. I think we're holding rappers accountable for what they're saying, or pop stars and stuff like that, which I say isn't a bad thing, but I do wonder. I do wonder what these songs are gonna sound like, and I don't know. Like, I don't think anybody that's upset or disappointed in Lizzo is like terrible disappointed in her. Like, they won't listen to her music anymore. But I don't think I'm in that weird spot where I get it. People are very upset. People are disappointed in Lizzo, and a lot of people are gonna be disappointed in artists for using words or slang and stuff like that, which I get, right? I do get. But I'm not necessarily sure if we now this was a learning experience for Lizzo, because I don't think she might have knew, she might not have known the long origins of the word. But I think when we get to words that we're not allowing artists to say, I don't know what will come of it. I'm not really sure. But I really don't think. I don't think anybody that's disappointed in Lizzo has any bad intentions. But I don't think that Lizzo had any bad intentions. And I understand hip hop's, pop's, soul. I understand their point of view on this whole topic. I understand. They'd be like, well, we've heard this for years. Rappers have used it for years to diss people or use it in songs to explain frustration. I get that too, but I think I don't know. Like, I know people explain frustration differently, and it's not necessarily the same for everybody. But I don't know. I don't know where we could like a middle ground for it. I'm not sure, because I don't know what made her do this song. I'm not really sure. But I think artists will have to be more careful on the words that they choose. And I get it. They're like, this is a softer generation. And to some degree, we could argue both sides that there's not. There's just more technology. And I think that's what it comes down to. The more technology we have, the more we're able to correct them right away. So I don't know. To me, if you ask me, she had no bad will to make the song. I don't think she had a bad bone in her body to say it or be disrespectful. But I do understand people feeling disrespectful about it, because it's something they can't control, like the spasms they cannot control. I get that too, and I understand that. But also, I understand every side of it, but I cannot I can't pick a side on it, because I understand all sides. I hope people aren't really upset at Lizzo for using the word for it. Now, you can be disappointed, and I get that, but I'm not really for cancel culture, because I think everyone can learn. I don't think they should be canceled for a word or a verse or anything like that. But we can inform. I think we're better with technology now. We have better technology than we had in the 2010s, the 2000s, right? So I think going into this year, I think we just have to inform. Just inform people, because she changed it right away. I'm just saying, inform would be better than just to cancel. But I don't know. It's a weird. This discussion goes into a longer and a deeper conversation, and I don't know if I'm the right person to have that conversation.